This is Mr. Smith, and this is a tutorial on how to use Open Broadcaster in the computer lab. This may be used in other situations, but it's primarily focused towards my students who don't have admin rights. Why is that important? Well, because I used my admin rights to install Open Broadcaster, but it's mainly visible for me now. It's not visible for them, so they have to go hunting for it, and here's how they do that. First, they go into the Start button here and click Computer, and we're going to go into our hard disk. We're going to go into Program Files, and we are going to look for a folder that's labeled OBS. The good news is you only have to do this once, because what we're going to do now, we're going to find the application. You see this application right over here named OBS, and we're going to right click on this, and we are going to pin this to our taskbar, and now it shows up down here. So now I can just click on that to open it, which is going to be a lot easier than having to go through all that again. That's the main problem with OBS. It wasn't available for them to see it. But now we still have to set it up, because I want to record something with Tone Matrix. I think Tone Matrix is really cool. I want to make some music and record that, but I can't do that yet. So I'm going to open up OBS, and I'm not going to install these updates right now for the purpose of this recording. And I need to add a source. I add a source by right-clicking, and I pick Add. And in this case, I'm going to go with a window capture. If I do monitor capture, that can work too, but it's going to capture all the pixels on the screen, including my Open Broadcaster window, which can be a little annoying. So I'm going to pick a window capture instead. I can name it something special. In this case, I'm not going to. And by default, I lucked out. It picked Tone Matrix. Why? Because it's the only other window I have open. If I have a bunch of windows open, it's going to ask me what window I want to pick, and I can hit refresh. I want the inner window, not the entire window, because I don't need the little stuff up at the top. And I am going to go one step further. For a lot of websites, this is fine, but I'm going to go one step further on this one because I want to capture a subregion, which I foolishly had this window in the way. So I'm going to move this over like this so I can see all of this. And we're going to right click on this and go back into properties, and now I can adjust this. I'm going to pick subregion, and I'm going to click this button here, which basically says select region. I've moved this out of the way because the subregion I want to select is just this grid here, not any of the extra stuff. And I'm just going to click on the edges of this and drag it over. I'm going to do that for each side. And press Enter, Escape, or click outside this rectangle when complete. So if I click outside the rectangle, there, my subregion is selected, and you can even see the X and Y coordinates here and the size over here. So you can adjust this depending on what you want to record. I'm going to click OK, and I can even see how it's going to look by clicking Preview Stream. Now, as you can see, it's up in the corner here because it's very small compared to the entire size of my window. I can fix that by right-clicking on this, go down to Position and Size, and pick Fit to Screen. And now it's going to fill the screen. Whatever I see here is what's going to show up in my recording, which works out pretty good because I can move this window around. I can have it in the front. I can have it over to the side. It's not going to be in the recording at all, just Tone Matrix. And as I start clicking on things over here, if we look, they show up over here too. There's a slight, like a millisecond delay between the two, but otherwise it works pretty good. Now, something else you'll notice here is you got two volume controls. You got one for your microphone, if you have a microphone connected, and you got one for the computer. This will record all the computer outputs. So if you're playing a YouTube video in the background when you're recording something, that's going to get picked up, and maybe you won't get such a good grade because you included copyrighted information while you were making your recording. So hopefully you won't do that. But we're not done yet. We gotta mess with some more settings, and this is something that you usually only have to do once, so keep that in mind. Gonna go into settings, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to broadcast settings, because Open Broadcaster is designed primarily for streaming, and we're not streaming. So we're gonna click on where it says live stream, and we're gonna say file output only. Now we got to decide where that file is going to get saved. I'm going to hit browse, and I am going to save it to my desktop. And I usually name my files OBS, and the suffix is going to be MP4. You could pick Flash, but you can't edit Flash afterwards, so I usually go with MP4 just in case I want to edit things, and hit save. So now that I've done that, you can see it has a file path here, desktop/obs.mp4. My first recording, that's exactly what's going to be named, obs.mp4. If I make a second recording without getting rid of this one first, it's going to name it obs1.mp4. My next recording will be obs2.mp4. You get the idea. It consecutively numbers them. So that makes things a lot easier. I'm going to hit apply, OK. And, ooh, I almost forgot. Sometimes you do have to go into other settings. You usually will not have to do this part, so don't worry about this unless you're having problems, because some of my students do record projects that require them to use a microphone. In that case, do go into audio and make sure it has a microphone selected. Sometimes it's going to say disable, particularly if you turn the computer on while the microphone wasn't attached, or if you opened OBS while the microphone wasn't attached, and you can go through and select a microphone and then hit apply and OK. And so long as you see this green line moving like this, you're doing well. If you are recording with a microphone, you will probably want to turn your computer volume here down. This doesn't actually lower the volume of what your computer's outputting to your ears, but it will lower the volume of what OBS is recording on to whatever file you're saving it as. So that's going to help you out without having whatever you're playing on the computer drowning out your voice if you're doing something where you need to record your voice. My dynamic students just record what the computer's doing. They don't need to record their voice, so this would be irrelevant for them. Okay, so I'm going to hit stop preview. When you're ready to record, after you've done all this once, remember you don't have to keep going back and doing this over and over again. So if I close this and I open it back up again, oh look, it's all still there. And I hit preview and it all still works. So long setup, but we're done. You hit start recording to start the recording. This button turns into a button that says stop recording when you press that button, and then you just hit stop recording and it stops the recording, and you have a file that you can either edit or hand in. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.